Enthusiasm was the name of the game for this episode. I have to give a big shout out to Richard for connecting us, but an even bigger shout out to Alise for coming on here, taking a deeper dive into all things knit me, sew me. The want and the need to get handmade, handcrafted products back into the marketplace. Honestly, if you ask me, there is no better feeling than knowing that somebody thought about you with a handcrafted gift, with a handmade gift, with something that's custom made. But oftentimes, because of the saturation of certain markets and certain places and people trying to put their own spin on things, they can lose their authentic nature and touch. Well, Alise is here to put an end to all of that with one particular product, one particular animal at that you may have even seen. So without further ado, enjoy episode 201, Duck, Goose. What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Down to Business podcast here with Tamar Turner. You know, I honestly think in all my interviews and all my episodes, I may have found someone who's matched my energy, who's here with me, who's just as excited, may even be more excited than me. And that's hard to do because I love what I do, no matter what day, no matter what time, where we are. But very excited to connect with Alise today. I actually connected with a mutual friend of ours, I guess I'll call him Richard, earlier in the week, and he was actually 2 episodes ago. So very excited for y'all to hear this one today, to get into all things, because, you know, Richard was really just amazing. He spoke very highly of Alise and everything that she does. And I love what she does after going through just the page and some of the content and seeing what she does. And I think you will too. You know, it's definitely not something that and it may even give it away in her name, but I'll let her explain everything. But before we get into that, Alise, how you doing today? How's everything on your end?
I'm doing wonderful, and I really appreciate you having me today.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for joining us. I'm very excited for you to get into all things that you do and really just push that message then out to my audience. So with audience, I know that we're going to have some people from my side. I know we're going to have some people from your side, and then we're going to have some newcomers along the way. So to make sure that everybody is brought up to speed, to make sure that everybody is on the same page, can you just do 2 things for me? 1, just tell me a little bit about yourself. And then 2, just tell me what brings you on the Down to Business podcast today.
Well, about myself, believe it or not, I am 70 and a half years old, which totally freaks everybody out. And usually I actually got carded at the grocery store pharmacy because I wanted to get a COVID booster. And she turned and asked me if I was over 65. And when I said yes, when the pharmacist came out to give me the booster, I looked at her, I said, you know, I've never been carded at the pharmacy before. So that was kind of fun. I'm also an identical twin. My sister is 5 minutes younger than I am. My husband kind of jokes that when she and I laugh, it's stereo. And yes, she and I look almost exactly alike. And, you know, we're both, you know, very outgoing and very friendly. And we look a lot alike, that's for sure. And what brought me today is my goal is to get handmade products back into the marketplace. Over the years, you know, we've all seen an influx of goods that come from elsewhere, and the quality is not that great. The workmanship sometimes could be not that great, and you don't know who made it. So it could be a little kid, but you just don't know. And also, you know, it might have a tag that gives you the contents, but who knows what that was treated with. And, you know, I'm getting more and more to the point where I'm really not trusting things that come from abroad. And so I'm one of the group of handmade artisans who are trying to get the word out about handmade and how it's a value. I mean, if you're going to spend your hard-earned money, you might as well spend it on things that are value and going to last you a longer time than maybe one season. So that's my goal, is to just tell everybody about Knit Me, Sew Me, and get other people to get involved with, you know, handcrafted artisans who can really create unique things that people will love and cherish.
Whew, that's an intro. A twin, 70 and a half, carded at the pharmacy, handmade artisans. I love it all. You know, there's a first time for everything too, but no, 70 and a half. Yeah, you blew me away for sure with that one. I would have never guessed that, but amazing. And you know, I think that with the approach that you took, I love that one, because it already lets me know the passion. It already lets me know just the personable, just the authentic and the genuine approach. As you said, you want people to be able to put a face to the product, put a face to the handmade craft, to everything like that. And a lot of times, we get these products, or we get these things, or we're so quick to order or buy something from somewhere, and we may not necessarily know where it goes. Other than reading a tag, other than maybe reading some product information, we can't necessarily tie that to something in particular. And for people who are very intentional about that, for people who kind of want to know what they're using, what they may be ingesting, what they may just have sitting around or anything like that, that could be something that's important. So to hear that you took it upon yourself to venture into this, I love that, because one, as someone who cannot sew whatsoever and has needed that service done many, many times, I will say just how it saved my life, how it saved my outfits, how it's made me look presentable. Big shout out to my grandmother. I can't tell you how many things she's put together for me and made things happen. But big shout out to everyone. Even one of my colleagues more recently has gotten into this now, and she's just making different things. She's experimenting with different things. She's making clothing. She's making things for babies. It's so amazing. But I love the handmade aspect of things, because I feel like it's just that personable touch, knowing that somebody was really just working on something, doing something, and putting it all together, and to see it start, to see the kind of the middle process of it, and to really see the ending and what's done afterwards. It's always amazing. So now, would you say that, I feel like, and hearing the Knit Me Sew Me, I can understand how that business model came to be, why you wanted to get into what you wanted to get into. But specifically with knitting, with sewing, where did that interest start from? Was this something that did you grow up kind of just loving to do so? Was there kind of like an experience, or was there people around you? Did you and your sister do this together? What does that really look like? How did you really come to this now, so much so that you wanted to brand yourself?
Well, my mom taught me to knit and crochet when I was 13. So if you do the math, it's like 57 years ago. And my grandma taught her. And since I don't have kids, I guess it's going to stop with me. So unfortunately, I learned how to sew in grade school back in the dark ages, when the girls had to take home economics. And I learned how to make things from scratch with patterns and all sorts of things like that. And then I majored in fashion merchandising, and I had to take a pattern making class. I designed some of my own things. And for over 30 years, I lived in Phoenix, and the summers in Phoenix are just brutal. So I used to make all of my own summer clothes. So, shifts, pantsuits, tops, things like that, shorts, anything out of cotton that was cool to wear. And that gave me the ability to look at how things are put together. And once I started making, knitting and crocheting and making my own things and learning how to put things together, I found out that finishing a product is almost more important than making it. Because I don't know I'm sure all of you have seen products that you've bought that, the seams unravel and the stitching isn't even, and, just really not finished. So for Knit Me Sew Me, if you take one of Knit Me Sew Me's products and turn it inside out, it'll look just as beautiful on the inside as it does on the outside. And that's what I pride myself on. You won't see any drop stitches, loose ends, anything like that. And ends not woven in. And so, I just wanted to always make sure that when people shop with Knit Me Sew Me, they know that they're getting quality and value. And for me, in tandem with that, is always being open and honest and transparent.
That's a great way to end, because I think that's something I've learned just in talking to a lot of the people who I've spoken with, and something that I've even just adopted as myself, is brand transparency. It's just, not feeling like people are not, when people kind of come across me in any capacity, whether it be social media, in person, website, email, anything like that. I don't want you to feel like there was something left in the dark, or something that you may not know, or something that kind of leaves you just on the fence a little bit, or maybe apprehensive. Now if it's about the brand and the business itself, we can kind of get into that. But I want everything to be at the forefront. I want you to kind of know what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, how I got started, my trials, my tribulations, the good, the bad. I take everything under the sun. So I love to hear that you are just as personable, are just as authentic, and really Two, it also lets me know, as you spoke to the word you use, the craftsmanship, but really just honing in and perfecting that, because even with 57 years of experience, and I'm sure that there are still things that you're learning, that you're working on, that, nobody is perfect at the end of the day. So, even as pristine as things may be, you may look at things now, and sometimes we're our worst critics, especially when you're in an industry for that long. So you see something that somebody else may love it, may adore it, may just hard eyes and star eyes for it. But for you, you're like, okay, next time I'm gonna work on that, or next time I'm gonna get that, or hey, let me just fix that just a little bit too. So, but something that I also learned with this industry is that there are a lot of different ways to do it: sewing, crocheting, knitting, braiding, everything. There are a lot of just different words and a lot of different styles and a lot of different approaches to it. So would you say, for what you do, for what you've learned, for what you've even been taught and have kind of continued, do you adopt a certain style with Knit Me Sew Me? Or you kind of just, is it up to the people who come to you, because I could imagine that you've gotten some custom orders, you've had to kind of branch out a little bit, maybe even try some new things with it. So do you adopt a particular style with how you work, with how the business is, or is it just kind of whatever people may want? You kind of are just well versed in it all.
Well, the business, I've been in business for 24 years, and I've had customers pretty much from the beginning, and I still have them, and most of them have become friends as well as customers. When I started out, it was basically just baby things. So it was baby blankets, baby booties, bottle holders, bean bags, stuffed animals. And then I added a line of accessories because I didn't think the baby aspect was going to be sustainable by itself. So then I started creating the scarves, the headbands, the head wraps, the fingerless gloves. And then I branched out into home goods. So I have all sorts of eco-friendly things for the house. And so throughout the years, I've had some very bizarre special orders. From chocolate brown bunnies to red bunnies, to a toilet paper cover for a roll of toilet paper, all sorts of things that people have asked for. And I think there's only been one or two occasions where I wasn't able to make it work. And that's when I contacted the person and say, I've been working on this all day. I've tried this thing 5-6 different ways. And unfortunately, I just can't get it to work. So I'm honest enough to know what my limitations are. But somebody throws a special thing at me and I'm like, I'm game, because that way I have an opportunity to make something different. I had a gal contact me on for my Google business page. She actually made a couple of crochet baby blankets, and she was a beginner, and she brought them over. And I was floored because they were perfect. I couldn't believe that she was a beginner, but she wanted appliques. So we decided on some appliques. I made them, and then I put them on the blankets, things like that. I had a gal bring me a kit and a hat and booties kit and said, I don't want to do this. Will you do it for me? And I said, yes, I did it. And then she left another kit with me for whenever she gets ready again. But then she brought me a bunch of yarn and said, can you make a baby blanket out of this? And I said, sure. So I designed one. She loved it. And off we went. So I try to find things that are not fatty, meaning fad, because the fact that everything is handmade, it takes hours. So I don't want to make something that might last a season, and that's it. And maybe it's not that popular, and then it goes out of style. And I'm like, well, why did I do this sort of thing? So I also talk to my customers to see, what would you like to see? Is there anything that you've come across that you think would be of interest to, some of our other customers? And especially with color, I use a lot of basic colors because that's what they want. I don't do a lot of yellows and oranges and neon green and things like that because I know my customers won't wear that. So I from time to time, I do add new styles. I added 2 fingerless glove styles this year. And so those are now on the online store, and been making gloves in the new style. So, little by little, it comes together, but I'm always open to seeing what else I can do. I don't stop. And I also learn new procedures, and practices and things like that. Or I mean, I made something a while back, and then I went to make a batch the second time, and I couldn't remember what I did the first time, but I figured it out, and I actually figured out something better. So a lot of times if I don't write something down, it really bothers me. Sometimes I write it down, but I'm notorious for marking all over patterns and changing them and seeing what else I can do with what I've got in front of me.
In an industry like this, diversification sounds very important. And it's cool that, you said that over 57 years of experience in business for 24. But with that, I learned that you're always a sponge. You're never just that perfectionist, nor do you confine yourself, though. Like you said, if somebody comes to you with something, whether you've touched on it, whether you've looked into it or not, I'm game. I'm going to do it. And I think that attitude, that mantra is so cool, because you teach yourself a lot in things like that. You learn a lot. Like you said, you made two things and you made them differently, just because the second time around you couldn't necessarily remember how you did it, but you were still able to achieve that same result. And I think that that's amazing, because it also just goes to show too the story and the journey of business ownership and entrepreneurship. How no two things lead to the same, no two roads lead to the same destination sometimes, or sometimes two different roads can lead you to the same place. But I think it's so amazing that we as business owners, we stay in a reflection mood, and we stay ready to be introspective, because we also have to recognize that it's just not all or nothing with us. It doesn't necessarily just stop with us. You can learn from things. You can learn from your customers. You can learn from your interviewees, from your guests, from your clients, from other people on the team. And I love just the attitude and the mantra that you take with that, because yes, what you're doing, like you said, while you can perfect that craft, while you can hone in on things, while you can love what you do, there's always more to it. There's always more to experiment with. There's always more to learn. Like you said, there's even been a couple of instances where you told somebody, look, I tried it. I really gave it the best that I had, but I just couldn't do it. And I know for the type of quality work that I do, I don't want this to be half of anything or slighted that. So I'm not even going to continue to do that. And I think that as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, that says a lot about you just the same, because that's not something easy to do. Oftentimes we don't want to say no. We don't want to feel like we're sending people away or rejecting them or not able to accomplish something. But that's the growth within ourselves. But that's also the growth within business, because while you may not be able to hone in on that right now or do that right now, it's not to say it'll never happen. It's not to say later down the line you may revisit that, or you may come back to that, or teach yourself how to do it, because that's how things evolve. When you look at something, maybe look at a problem, or maybe somebody has brought something to you that you necessarily can't do. Okay, let me take a step back. Let me figure out what needs to be done, and let me adjust accordingly. I'm glad you also too, you touched on turnaround time in a little bit, because I'm actually very curious about that. And I know that it probably could be product specific, but for you, for how experienced you are, for how well versed you are, typically when people are coming to you with different projects, from blankets to the kits that they may leave with you, to toilet paper holders, covers, or anything like that, what is that process like for taking on like a client or getting a project, or somebody coming to you with something? Is it kind of like a consultation? Do you guys kind of sit down and walk through things, and they kind of paint the picture for you? They talk about colors and different things like that. Do they kind of just show you something, or maybe go through a website or anything like that? And then what does it look like kind of on the back end? So once you guys kind of come to terms and are able to agree to something, what can people expect as far as like how quickly or how long something may take? And I understand that it could be different. A blanket may not take as long, or booties may not take as long as like a nice blanket that we may need. So what is that like when really sitting down with you, Alise, and really trying to figure out bringing their vision to life?
Okay, well, let me give you one example. In October of 2021, I participated in the Calabasas Pumpkin Festival. It's an outdoor festival. And I met this really nice gal, Christine. And she wanted larger size of tiger hats for her two sons. And she said, can you do that? I said, absolutely. And she said, I bought a bunch of hats in San Francisco years ago. She has sinus and allergy issues. And she likes the hat because it has a little bit of a brim, so it kind of covers her nose, and she actually doesn't get sick when she wears a hat. So she said, do you think you could help me with that? I said, sure. I said, let me let you know when the hats are ready. I said, do you have a sample of the hat? And she said, yes. So I said, bring it over with you when you come. So she came and she got the tiger hats for her boys, and then she put the hat on the table. And I took a huge piece of parchment paper. I put the hat on the parchment paper. I traced the whole outline so I would know how big it needed to be. And then I sat there on the parchment paper and wrote the pattern while she was sitting there. So fast forward to now, I've made her probably 20 something hats, and she just brought me yarn to make 4 more. So that was the process with her, which was great because because that was something different. And so that pattern, I got it in a sleeve, and that it's called Christine's hat, because every time she texts me, she brings the yarn and she says, I want 2 in this color and 2 in this color and whatever. And she always loses them, which I find hysterical. But she said, you're like my reserve ENT. She says, when I wear the hats, I don't get sick. And she says, and I attribute my good health to the hats that you've made me. So thrilled, absolutely thrilled. And, people come over. I had a gal come over. She couldn't figure out a pattern for it's like a scarf, but it was in a V, and you had to increase and stuff like that. She couldn't figure out the pattern. So I sat with her for an hour and a half, and I figured out the pattern. I wrote her instructions, and I said to her, she said she was going to have her daughter make it, or she was going to make it. I said, great. I said, do me a favor. If you run into problems with this, call me and bring it back, and I will make it for you. I never heard from her. I don't know if she finished it, but I hope she did, because I got it started for her, and actually it was going to look pretty darn good when it was done. So, if somebody wants a baby blanket, there's all sorts of baby blankets on the website under the custom baby blankets tab. It depends on the blanket. Some of them, usually they take me at least a week, but if I'm looking at little squares and there's maybe 200 of those, and they have to be crocheted into strips, and then the strips have to be crocheted together. And when you turn it upside down, there's a million ends to weave in and things like that. That could take me 2 to 3 weeks. So the bottom line is, nothing that I make takes 5 minutes. From the smallest cup cozy or mug cozy to a baby blanket. Nothing is, I work on it for 5-10 minutes and it's finished.
And I like that too, because even with the skill set, even with the expertise that you have, you're going to be diligent each and every time. And that's so important, because obviously the work speaks for itself, in the sense that nobody's going to come to you for 1 hat, let alone 2 hats, let alone 20 hats. Mm-hmm. If you haven't been doing what you're supposed to be doing, whether she's losing them or not, I still think that speaks to the quality of the work and everything that you're doing. And as you said, you're even helping a further problem. Obviously, you're doing something that she would like, but when it comes to health and being able to take care of her, if that's the difference between not having a cold or not having the sinuses or the allergies act up, I'm going to get a hat made every single time. So I love to hear that. Now, to take it a step further, I understand that this can be a time-consuming process. This can be something also that, when mixed with life, you have to have that work-life balance, in a sense. Obviously, you love what you do, but Alise is not all just knit me, sew me. You do have a life outside of that just the same, So what does it look like when it comes to a lot of the projects that you're taking on, a lot of the work that you're doing, and then just finding that balance with just your everyday, because I could understand too that knitting, sewing is something that it requires manual labor. So it's something that too, you could get tired after a while. Hands could get sore, everything of the sort. So what does that look like too, when you're trying to find that happy medium between just, taking on the projects and making sure you have happy customers, but also taking care of you and taking care of everything that you input into the business?
It's hard. Because when everything is handmade, if I take a lot of time off, that means there's no product. So I had my knee replaced in December, and I was pretty much off the rest of December and most of January, because I was recovering from that. It's hard to have a balance, because I'm it. So, I maintain the website, I maintain the shopping cart, I write the social media. I deal with Google, which is the bane of my existence. I just did a big update on the website, and then last night, as I got into bed, I realized I forgot to do the mobile app, so I did that this morning. And I have a YouTube channel, so there's all sorts of things that go on that take away my time from actually making things. So the way I have it now is, I try to do all my admin stuff with the laptop, whatever, during the day, my networking and things like that, one-on-one and stuff like that. And the evening is when I actually just sit down and make things. And Saturdays are usually it's my writing day. So when I get ready to write the post for August, I'm going to do that this Saturday because I don't have anything planned. So nothing's scheduled. And then I work on things. So I literally work 7 days a week. Do my hands hurt? They do. So if I'm crocheting a lot, I'll put that down. I'll pick up some knitting because it's all different. But there's a fine line, and I have set myself some guardrails as far as I always take a lunch break every day. So like between 1:15, 1:30, I'm in the kitchen eating lunch and doing the crossword puzzle and the Sudoku and the jumble and anything to keep my mind off of Knit Me, Sew Me. And I put my phone on sleep mode every night. I don't want to hear buzzing, dinging, ringing, whatever, because, if I don't get a good night's sleep, I'm worthless the next day. I mean, the brain and the hands need to rest. And if you're not sleeping well, then you're not productive. So, but I'm trying. I know I need to have more time for me where I'm not doing anything with Knit Me, Sew Me. So, my husband and I go out to dinner. We don't really go to a movie, but we've gone to some concerts, and we try to do things outside the house where I can just get away from this. But for me, when I'm sitting and knitting, crocheting, creating, I don't consider that work. I consider that joy and passion. Some people disagree with me, but it does run my life. I mean, I take care of the house. And so like today we had an issue. We just had solar installed and something happened. It wasn't generating. So the guy came out, he flipped it on, he fixed it. So now it's generating. I had a problem with my TiVo, which now went bye-bye because Spectrum doesn't support it anymore. So between the guy in here and the guys out there, it was a crazy morning, but I take care of the inside of the house as well. I shop, I cook, I iron, I do laundry. So I'm an entrepreneur as well as a housewife and a pet parent to 2 cats.
That's quite the balance. And, as someone who is also a one person show within their business, I understand the ins and the outs and everything that comes with it. And as you said, there are certain points where you have to prioritize, but you also, it's hard to find that fine line because as you spoke to, when you're knitting, when you're sewing, when you're crocheting, when you're doing what you're doing, while it's work because it's making you money, you're fulfilling an order per se, or perhaps something for a client. For you, I just love to do this. And I feel the exact same way. Obviously when I have to send my emails or do everything like that, that's that admin work or that's on the back end of things. But when I'm sitting next to people like you and just hearing them discuss their passions and really just seeing their eyes light up from it, this is not work for me, but I also have to recognize that I can't do interviews all day, which is why I went from doing sometimes 2 and 3 interviews a day to now I only do 1. But I understand sometimes just when that passion takes over and it's hard to, like you said, I still have to take care of myself. You have to take care of Alise. You have to take care of Tamar, because without that taken care of, you can't pour into the business the same way, and you'll quickly start to see things decline. But I love the fact that you are still finding ways to navigate, to still even make yourself happy, even outside of what's making you happy within your business, because that's important, as you said. But to still see everything that you're doing, I really asked that question too, to let other people know and listen, and that, look, you're not alone. You're not the only person that after you finish with this, you have to find that work-life balance, or you have to go home, or sometimes you feel exhausted, or sometimes you just need to tell yourself, hey, step away, stop this. Or sometimes we need those gentle reminders from other people. Hey, you've been working hard today. Let's take a walk. Let's go to a movie. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. Otherwise, I'd just be so locked in on this podcast or Knit Me, Sew Me that you probably wouldn't even see me or hear from me other than when it came time to do what I needed to do. So another thing that you spoke to too within that admin work was networking. And I think that within business ownership, within entrepreneurship, that's crucial. It's something that's important. A lot of times people cannot discover us or figure out what we do if we don't put ourselves out there in some capacity, in some form or fashion. So with Knit Me, Sew Me, and even thinking about your 24-year journey now, What has it been like getting the word out? Is this a lot of word of mouth? I know you said you have your website, and I know we even connected from the work that I saw on Facebook for people just speaking so highly of you and just what you do. But what was it really like, even some of the earlier stages of the business with getting the word on the ground? Obviously, you have a plethora of experience within this, so I know that some people just knew what you did. But for those other people, for those clients that kind of came along the way, for the work that's now become consistent, what has that been like when it really came to promotion and marketing for others?
Um, well, the business just started with me. I was working full time. The business was part time, and I was doing it on nights and weekends. And then I would do my holiday boutiques in the fall, and that was it. And then I decided to get a website. So one of my best friends, her husband was designing websites, so he designed my first website and he hosted it. And I was starting to get online orders, which was great. And then in 2017, he called me to tell me he was taking the server down, and I had to get a new website. I said, okay, fine. So I met somebody, and the website got put together. My website's on Wix. I know Wix gets sometimes very bad press, but you know what? I've had nothing but great experience with them. Matter of fact, I was on the phone with them twice today about stuff. So I little by little, I figured out how to do it. I didn't set it up, but I maintain what's there. I can add pages. I can, do all sorts of things. But the actual back end of it, I didn't deal with, because I'm honestly, I'm not a tech person. I'm 70. What do I know about this stuff? But I've been able to learn and figure things out. Same thing with Square. Square is my point of sale. So I've had great experience with them. So I started, at boutiques. All I did was take cash and checks. And then PayPal came out with PayPal here. And I knew I had to start taking credit cards. And believe me, if you didn't think I was terrified the first time I ran somebody's credit card through, think again. I think I sweated like buckets until I knew that thing went through. And I didn't want to do it, but I got dragged into the 20th century and said, okay, I got to do this. So I did that. And then I got rid of the PayPal because Square was less expensive and easier. So I met somebody. She constructed my whole Square site, the back end, and now I maintain the front end. Okay. So, I didn't know any of this stuff. I didn't know anything. So, once the website got set up and I was taking credit cards, I always thought, okay, I'll have a website, I'll have a shopping cart, and I'll do my in-person boutiques, and that'll be it. It's like, oh God, no. I mean, that's just like this much of the whole entire picture, which, takes a lot to figure out. And so now I learned I take Zelle, I take Venmo, all sorts of things that makes it easy for my customers to shop with me. And one of the things that makes Knit Me Sew Me different than a lot of other places is that I offer personal customer service. Okay, I was raised old school retail, where you actually had a sales lady or something grab your clothes, put them in a room, and shuttle things back and forth. So I have taken that same principle into my in-person events. But if somebody wants to order online or they have a question, on the top right of the website, there's a phone thing where you can call me. There's a thing that says email Alise. You can text me. And if you have any questions, I'm there. Okay. So for me, I want to make sure that all my customers are happy. They know that they get an honest opinion from me. And that's how the business kind of evolved. And it was part-time until November of 2020. I was almost 67 and I got laid off during COVID. So my husband and I had that, we sat down, we had a conversation, and we were kind of looking at the finances and things like that. And he said, what do you want to do? And I said, honey, I've been working for other people for 50 years. I'm done. I've checked out mentally. I don't want to work for anybody else anymore. I want to see what I could do with Knit Me Sew Me if I do it full time. And honestly, it has been the hardest journey for the least amount of money I've ever made, but it's my joy and my passion. Because when you own your own business, for instance, if you're a crafter, you have to decide if you want your business to be a part-time crafting side hustle, or if you cross that line where it becomes a business. And if it becomes a business, that's a whole other ballgame. So there were certain things that I needed to do in order to make it a business. Like I had to get a DBA, which is a doing business as, before I could get a checking account, because my accountant said you can't mix your personal and business money. Okay, fine. So I had to get a business license for the city of LA. I have a California resale license, which means I buy all my materials tax-free. However, by law, I am required to charge sales tax when I sell the products either in person in California or online in California, and the shop is set up for that. So by January 31st of next year, I'll be filing an LA City business tax return and a California state return, and I return all the tax, including any extra I may have collected, to the state. So it's that transparency and honesty thing, that if they ever come like knocking on my door and they want to see my books, it's here you go. And I also have some independent contractors. So by law, if I pay them over $600 a year, they get 1099. So, you have to do that. And then you have to realize that, there's other things involved in being a business owner than just me knitting, crocheting, and sewing things and making things. It's much, much more than that. And as far as the networking goes, that's a really big part. I mean, I've done really well on Alignable. I've had people buy from me multiple times. I met one lady, I've made a baby blanket for each one of her 3 grandbabies as they were on the way. Same pattern, different colors. But then, you could be on Alignable all day long. And I can't afford to do that. So I try to limit networking or one-to-ones to like no more than 2 or 3 a day. And anything else, it's because I made a mistake and I just planned a bunch of stuff that I shouldn't have. But that's that time management thing where you try to, have all these balls in the air and you're, juggling them around and you don't want to drop one. And I use a paper calendar. I have an old school calendar here on the floor. Everything's written in pencil. Every time I do something, I have my little handy green felt pen. I check off what I've done. And oh my God, you should see all my check marks already, because that shows me that I'm actually making progress. So if someone says to me, or I say to myself, you really didn't do that much this month, all I have to do is go look at my calendar and say, you know what, you're an idiot because you have.
In part, that's why I write so many things down too, because it's nothing like checking some boxes, crossing some things off. Even as you spoke to now, your calendar. Well, I have my notepad here with the pages that I've already kind of used and crossed off and different things like that. So I'm right there with you. It became a thing of where, as we said, we're gonna criticize ourselves harder than anyone else, because this is my life's work, my life's passion. I love this through and through, and I think that even goes to speak to it. But it also, I love your answer just because it resonated with me so much, because it wasn't until I really LLC'd my podcast that I realized everything that went into the business side of things. I did this 4 years with no LLC, with no sense of business ownership in me, just thinking that, hey, I love to sit down with people. I love to interview people. I love to do events. I love to sell merchandise and do all of that. Now, once we now started to put the LLC behind things, get the EIN, do the BOI filing, do DBA, DUNS number and everything, it was really like, wow, this opened up a totally different side of the business to me. I actually have to really this is like the professional side. As you spoke to, something I found out about this year, Alignable. I love that, and just being able to connect with people there. But as you said, I'll treat Alignable like a LinkedIn, and I'll be on there all day trying to make connections, trying to write a bio, trying to make sure my profile is just so up to date. And it's just like, wow, there's so much to this side and there's so much to that side, and it's a lot of balancing in a sense, and it's a lot of prioritization, but it's also just a lot of being able to give yourself in so many different areas of your business so that none of them lack. As you said, it's like that juggling, and it's like that process of the minute one slips or the minute you drop one, it's just like it affects everything else. It throws off your rotation, it throws off the rhythm, and you have to kind of start a new pattern. So if you can keep all that fluid, if you can keep all that together, now I just have the urge to juggle now all of a sudden, but if you can keep all that together, it'll really speak to the business just the same. Now, obviously we spoke to the trajectory of Knit Me Sew Me. We talked about your beginning as early as 13 years old, just learning what you learn, knowing what you know. We talked about now the 57 years, the plethora of experience that you have in different realms within knitting and sewing. And now we even talked about being in business for 24 now, for 20, almost going on 25 now. Now, for the people who are finding out about you now for the first time, for the people who are listening to this interview, for the people who just love custom and handmade products, because I know I have some people out there, if none other than my grandmother, who listens to every episode that I put out, and she's big. She knows how, like I said, she saved a lot of my outfits and a lot of my life sometimes, it has gotten me not yelled at by my parents just the same. But and for people out there that are finding out about you and want to continue to follow along this journey, want to see what you have going on, but also even want to inquire, what does the future outlook look like for Knit Me Sew Me? You know, as we continue to move through the rest of this year, as we think about even 2025 into what's to come, are you experimenting with anything? Is there anything new that you want to debut? Is there anything that people can be excited for? Now, obviously, when I ask this question, I don't want to spoil any surprises. So if it's something that we just have to wait for, if it's some mysteries or things out there, that's all good. But I definitely want people to just be eager to be able to follow along this journey with you, but also have something to look forward to. So what's that look like from your side?
Well, what it looks like right now is I'm going to Europe again at the end of August, and this is my lucky ducky. This is my traveling duck, and duckies have been flying all over the country. I actually got my first Canadian order. I that was one of the things I finally did was get Canadian shipping. So my first Canadian order was last week, and she got it, and one of them was a custom duck. So there's all sorts of lucky duckies from the shop tab. So duckies are flying everywhere, which is great. So duckies going on another excursion with my sister and I back to Europe. And I'm also kicking around maybe doing a rebrand of the logo. So I've gotten a lot of feedback on that, even though I absolutely love it. There's some things now that I'm seeing that may not be, it doesn't show, it's not indicative of what the business is. So that's one of the things I'm going to be working on next. I am working on a bunch of new products, and they'll all get posted on the website. If people can follow Knit Me Sew Me on Facebook and Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Alignable, I have a YouTube channel. So there'll be a lot of places where people can go to see what's going on with the business. And I'm just, I don't try to take on too much because it's just me. So, I mean, I can't say I'm going to have, 50 new products next year. Well, no, I'm not. But I added a few new hats this year for the kids. I've got one I still need to make. It's going to be a brand new hat. And I just introduced a line of key tags. So there's really cute little key tags for kids' backpacks and stuff, because I wanted to make some stuff that was like fun for me to make, sort of thing. More funner than the other stuff. But I'm always open to ideas. And that's why I'm always asking my customers, what else would you like to see? And then, and then I go off and see if I can make it work. So, I really rely on my customers to give me their input. And, if they don't like something, I'm not hurt. I don't take it personal if they don't like something. But if they don't like it, I can sell out of it and not make that one again. Make something different instead. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. I already have a bunch of boutiques scheduled. Starting matter of fact, the week after I get back from Europe, I've got one in Anaheim. So I've got to drive down to Anaheim. And I'm waiting for applications and contracts on 3 others. And then usually I'm booked almost every weekend during the fall, which is fine with me. And if people start ordering online, it's going to be, oh my God, what am I going to do? But that'll be a nice, oh my God, what am I going to do? So that's kind of what I'm up to. I'm very, I just can't make a whole bunch of new stuff and throw it against the wall and see what sticks. I usually get a lot of feedback before I make something. But ducky is like the hit of the show. I mean, if you take a duck on a trip, everybody will gravitate toward you and ask you, what's the deal with the duck? And we got that our first trip to Europe, and we were in Greece, Croatia, Montenegro, and Italy. Everybody wanted pictures of the duck, from the hotel people to the restaurant people to people on the ship. the tour guides, the shopkeepers where we went and spent money. Everybody wanted a picture with the duck. And there's a playlist on the YouTube channel called Lucky Ducky Goes to Europe. And it's got 19 cute little 30-second videos. And literally you can laugh your head off. But, you know, you want to be the center of attention? Get a duck.
So all my life, I've been trying to figure out what it is to get that spotlight, and all I needed to know was to just get a duck bring a duck. Yeah, because I'm not gonna lie, we put it in the camera, it catches my attention, you know. So it's just I could imagine seeing that in public.
Get a duck. So it's under the shop tab on the website, and it has its own little category that says Lucky Ducky, and people are ordering custom ducks, custom colors. So there's a section called Custom Ducks. So I made a pink and black one for a Mary Kay representative. I made a teal, a purple and green and white one for 2 Scentsy representatives. I made a teal and white one for somebody who sells Origami Owl. I made a navy and gray one for my sister for her law firm. We called it Law Duck. So, you know, I mean, sky's the limit. You know, you got a favorite team, you want a duck? Let me know. I can match up colors. I mean, I'm game for anything. As long as I know it's going to bring a smile to someone's face and it's going to bring some joy.
That's so amazing, and I love that. So look, y'all, we may even what this is gearing me up for is that we're gonna do a giveaway with you with Knit Me Sew Me. So we're gonna definitely talk offline about that and figure some things out. But the duck will be in the giveaway for sure, and we're gonna put a smile on one lucky or maybe 2 lucky contestant spaces for sure. But I love to hear that, and as I said, really just throughout this whole interview, really just even with how Richard explained who you were, really just even with the intro that I got in the beginning before we clicked live, I just love the passion. I love the attitude. I love the energy, you know, and it just really goes to show just really what can happen when you hone in on your passion, when you hone in on your craft, and when you really love what you do. When again, it doesn't feel like a chore. It doesn't feel like something that you dread and you have to do it for the money. You're doing this for the love of the game and for the love of everything that comes with it.
And you know what? I will tell people it's hard. It's not easy. This is not a sprint. It's a journey. And have I made mistakes along the way? Absolutely. I mean, you're going to make them. I mean, when I started out, I didn't have any mentors. I didn't have anybody. So I learned along the way, and it's still a journey. And, you know, I'm still going to make mistakes, and I'm going to learn from them, and it's going to make me better, and it's going to make me sew me better. So you have to have that open mind that you're never going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. It's a fluid situation, and you really basically do have to roll with the flow and see what happens.
And that's amazing. You know, I love the fact that you also shared that too, because it's just like, you know, for as passionate as you are, for as happy as you are, for as much as you love this, you know, there are those days, there are those rainy days, there are those days where things just pile on. There are those days where the morning starts off crazy and you got to have the solar people come back out and reactivate some things. And you got to make sure that everything is okay. Traveling, moving back. If you're booked and busy, as I heard, you're coming back from Europe to go right down to Anaheim, and then the whole fall you'll be busy. So it's just like, you know, things are constantly rolling and moving and grooving, and we are human beings through it all. And that's something I want people to realize with this podcast, that no matter who we talk to, from serial entrepreneurs to 7- and 8-figure earners to people who are retired to people who are really just living life on their own terms, we are still human beings at the end of the day. We go through emotions, we go through phases, we go through different spaces and places that we're in just the same. And so we have to continue to give ourselves grace. Now, before we officially close out, before we end everything, I want to, you spoke on it already, but I always like to end the episode with the call to action and just where people know. So for everybody out there tapping in, for listening with you, whether they want to find out about the website, tap in with you on social media, LinkedIn, Alignable, can you just give us the best places to find you, to reach out, to place orders, to see the products? Give us everything you got.
Okay, well, the website is, it's pretty easy. It's www.knitmesewme.com. There's a telephone icon at the top right. There's an email Alise icon right underneath it. And you can also join the email list. So I tell people that I have a guest book at my in-person boutiques, and I have people sign up with their email address, and I tell them you'll get a welcome email from me, and then you'll not hear from me, but maybe once a month. And I tell them right up front, I do not spam, because personally, I don't have time to write an email every day. So that's one of the ways that that people can contact me. My email address is real easy. It's alise@knitmesew.com. So it's easy there. And but most of the all the information, the contact information, you can find on the website. There's also a contact tab where you can fill out information and I can contact people. And I'm very good about getting back to people. So that's one of the customer service things that I offer, is that I don't leave anybody hanging. So, I mean, I've had people call me from my Google business page and they've asked me for, one guy called and asked me if I could sew a patch on a backpack. And I said, I just have a regular sewing machine. But I said, if you have a dry cleaners near you, they probably have an alterations person. Or if you have a shoe repair store near you, they have heavy duty sewing machines because, they deal with shoes and soles and leather and things like that. So if I can't help them, I find a way to give them a suggestion. Or, I don't just say, I can't help you and hang up the phone. I try to find a way to give them a place, a road to travel to get what they want. So maybe they didn't buy anything from me now, but maybe down the road they'll go, that gal from Knit Me Sew Me, she gave me all this information and she was really helpful. I'm gonna give her a call, or I'm gonna go visit her website. If they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. But I know when I hang up the phone that I did the right thing by them.
And that's all that matters when it's all said and done. And so I'm just so glad that we were able to connect today. As I said, I have to give a big shout out to Richard for just sending over everything your way, for getting you guys both on. And I'm excited to hear this air, to get this out to everybody. But I'm also excited to see what's to come. So as I spoke to my followers and my audience, we will be doing the giveaway. Y'all know I love a good giveaway, and y'all know I love to get creative with it. So we will definitely release some details around that for sure as things get closer. But Alise, really seriously, from down to business to Knit Me Sew Me, just thank you for taking the time with us today. Thank you for the insight that you provided into what it is you do, but just thank you for being you. Thank you for just showing up every single day, even when it's not the easiest thing to do, and really still just putting customer facing things first, and really just making sure that at the end of the day, people know who you are, people know the passion and the love and the drive that you have behind your brand and what you do. And I'm so excited to see what's to come. We're rooting for you every single step of the way, but I'm very just excited to see my followers tap in with you to see what comes from this, from a collaboration standpoint, and even from a creative standpoint. I feel like my audience can get a little creative sometimes, and they may even try to pick your brain about some things that they may want on their end just the same. So, and then again, to everybody else out there, to everybody who taps in with us, to the people who joined us on Facebook and LinkedIn, we got some good feedback just the same. But to everybody who just shows love to the podcast in any capacity, in any realm, I appreciate it. I do not take it lightly. I love y'all. And this has been another episode of the Down to Business podcast, here with Tamar Turner. All right.